Hi everyone, Jared here at Day Traders FX. I hope you guys are having a great week and are making some nice trades and some profits. We've had some good movements here. Let's have a little look at the U.S. markets, how they've gone. We see that everything's been pretty flat to slightly down today. Dow and S&P are just a little bit in the red. Gold's up just a little bit, and oil's actually up just a little bit. So we're seeing that kind of playing out. We'll look at that on the charts in just a moment. As far as news goes today, we don't have anything else today. We have seen a couple of reports. The bond auction out of Italy was a little bit less stellar than expected. We had core CPI numbers out of Canada and pending home sales out of the U.S. Coming into tomorrow, we have just a little bit of news. We have the GDP from Canada and unemployment claims from the U.S. all at 5:30 a.m. chat time, and then we start going into bank holidays for everybody with Good Friday and Easter weekend and all of that. So we'll see markets probably slow down definitely as we get into Friday. So we'll just be looking to trade kind of the last day of the week, Thursday, and then we'll let the Friday markets play out how they're going to play out. Okay, so here's the euro dollar. This thing, as we had posted the notes last night, of course, we just have to kind of make a break or bounce of these channels here. And it was 128.30 and 128.80, kind of the obvious levels. And we had a nice break out of 128.30 last night. And we've run down to the pip on this little reversal candle right here. Made a nice little hammer, and that is down at the low of 127.51. So we basically, hit 127.50 on the head, which is a nice psychological level and one that the euro dollar has tested many a times. So we're sitting right there. We have a couple reversal candles, and it looks like things might want to give us the slightest retracement, but I'm not super on board with it. One thing that we have is a missed daily pivot up here that needs to get hit and reached, and that'll happen, sooner than later, I'm sure. We're now about 135 pips off of that missed pivot. What I'm looking for here is we had this little rundown, consolidation, and then this rundown here. And so in this range now on the 1 hour chart, we've got about 300 pips or so. And one thing that I'll be looking at is if we start to get a little bit of retracement, if we start to, for example, break this high or we decide we want to trade against this low. Trading against the low is not a bad idea. There's not a lot of upside momentum here, but we might be able to get a little bit of a bounce. Our first target would definitely want to be that 23% fib, which is at around 128.20. Now beyond that, we're going to start to get a lot of resistance at this 128.20-30 area. But if we break that 20, chances are that'll put us back into the channel and may even give us an opportunity to test 128.80 again. But I would be a little surprised to see the euro really make, that big of a recovery, especially with Cyprus banks opening tomorrow and just kind of seeing how everything reacts to the new rules. I sent out a link on Twitter about how the rules are going to apply to all the Cypriot banks, and it's looking pretty scary. I don't know how there's going to be a positive end to any of this. So most likely we're going to see further downside. But if we do start to see a little recovery, remember our first target is going to be about 128.20, and then that'll again put us back into that channel, and we'll see how things go from there. Otherwise, what we're going to be looking at is just a short-term, this kind of thing right here on the 5 or 15-minute chart. Look for a breakout. Look for the trend to continue back down into this double bottom area. If we get that breakout, there's probably only 20 pips or so. But remember, our bigger targets down below are 126.60, 12700, 126.60. But again, I think we might see a little bit of a recovery. So watch for that. Trading against this low with this reversal candle, not a bad idea. And again, our first target would be up around 12800 and then potentially 128.20, and then getting us back into the channel. So that's what I'll be looking for in the euro dollar, but it's definitely has a huge bearish sentiment right now, and we're going to be very careful about trading against that trend. But there will be that recovery that could happen sometime either tomorrow or the first part of next week. That little kind of profit taking where everyone's getting out and taking their positive profits there and looking for that retracement so they can get back in for the rundown. So we could see some of that happening sooner than later. Pound dollar, I'm liking this pound dollar. We have a very nice head and shoulders pattern here. We broke the neckline. We're heading down through here. We've broken out of our trend, out of our channel pretty nicely. So what I'm looking for on the pound dollar, it looked like we were going to have a nice inverted head and shoulders pattern, but getting back below about 151.40 basically invalidated that. So now what I'm looking for is a little bit more of a recovery, and the two levels that I want to trade against are going to be 152, or excuse me, 151.80, which is just the daily high, and then the top of the shoulder, which is the same for both right and left shoulder here, and that's around 152.05. So a stop would be around 152.10. So if we had a stop of 152.10, which is a good area for a stop, we're currently 80 pips away from that. The closer we can get to this daily high and so on to start shorting this pound dollar, the better off we're going to be. So ultimately, I want to short against 152.10. So I'm looking for an entry, somewhere around 151.50-ish area, maybe a little bit higher, maybe 151.60, even into the 70s, up close to this daily high, and short against that 152.00. So that's ultimately what I'm looking for, and I think this pound dollar is going to be able to make a nice little run down. So again, the ultimate level is 152.10, but we will have some opportunity to short against 151.80 on the shorter term time frame there. But let's just get this thing up above 151.40 by a couple of pips, and then let's start looking for entries to short this on down into 150.50, 150.75, right in that general area. Because I think we've got some nice opportunities to take that pair lower. Aussie dollar, we talked about this trade this morning. I even sent out a chart. We had pending orders posted and so on. Tons of support down here. Weekly pivot, 200 moving average. That big level, the 104.13 that we struggled with. It hit that, and we had a pretty nice bounce. We got down into 104.17, and this thing bounced up, 30 pips from the highest point to the lowest point, about 33 pips. Not a ton, but there was a definite nice reaction there. What I'm interested in on the Aussie dollar now, remember retail crowds are fairly short Aussie dollar, or excuse me, fairly long Aussie dollar and euro dollar and euro yen and pound dollar and so on, which makes these all more attractive selling opportunities. So what I'm interested in here is this thing is run up to our resistance level, kind of double topped here, which is what we talked about, 104.75 and then 105.25, and we actually only got up to about 105.100, 104.95. So I'm interested in shorting against this high right here. We have a nice little shooting star, nice little reversal candle up there. And so remember that high is 104.95, current market price 104, 40s. So we're not super far away from that. I'd like to see the Aussie dollar get a little more into like the 104.50 area. 50, 60, if we can get into that 104, 50, 60 area, I would be looking to short that against the high. So that's what I'm looking for on the Aussie dollar. Once again, 50, 60, have a 35 to 45 pip stop, short this and start heading down into the 10300s. The biggest goal, the most important thing that we need to see if we start shorting this pair is that we can break below 104.13 ASAP. I don't think 10400 is going to have nearly the fight that 104 13, 14 area is going to have. So once we can get below that, then we'll start targeting around 103.75, 103.50 areas kind of for the shorter term, and then for the longer term, 10200, 10100. I still think we have that bigger move in the works. So that's what I'm looking for on the Aussie dollar. And then just kind of a last but not least here, nice double bottom on the euro yen. I'm not loving trading the yen pairs that much. There's lots of movement, which is great, but it's also lots of movement, which is scary. So what we see here is we see that the euro yen has really tested these this trend line, this support right here, and there's a lot of support, and we've got this level right through here, which is around the 120 even area, and we're having a hard time breaking below that, and I think we could see a bounce in the works on this euro yen. So we have a nice little reversal candle here on the 4-hour chart, nice reversal candles on the daily, or excuse me, on the 1-hour chart, big reversal there, positive candle, nice hammer right there. Everything's looking pretty good. So I think trading against this low currently on the euro yen is a pretty good opportunity. But once again, we have some pretty big stops. We have to be 75 pips worth of stop just right now. But the thing that I'm kind of looking for is as long as we can stay above this trend line, we break this trend line, we could be headed into a double bottom. So the closer we get down to that 120, the better off we're going to be for that entry to buy against this lowest point, which is around 119.95. Otherwise, buying just against these kind of recent swing points, I think will be kind of interesting. 20 and 30 pip stops, and just trying to get that run back up to the moving averages. The 200 here on the 15-minute chart 60 pips away, and of course it's a ton of pips away here, 180 pips on the 1-hour chart. But I think we're going to see a bit of a run up on this euro yen. So number one, if we see that breakout of the trend line, let's look to buy a little bit closer to 120. Otherwise, if we see a little bit more of a break of this trend line right here, let's just buy with some tight stops and see if we can pick up some momentum up towards the 200 moving average. So that's what I'm looking for there. And then last but not least, Euro Aussie is still, there's not, it's kind of in the middle of any kind of support. The big support down here is about 121.60, and we've already broken below some of these recent levels here, but we're at the bottom of the channel, and this Euro Aussie might be ready to start to turn just a little bit. So I'm still looking at this trend line and a break of this trend line to get us up into 122.85, and then ultimately into that missed pivot at some point, which is Friday low and missed pivot there, which is around 123.50, a pretty crucial level there. So I'll be looking at all of those opportunities, and we'll hopefully have some good setups coming sooner than later. So thanks a bunch, everyone, and we'll see you for the daily wrap-up session.